Okay, so AI and Hollywood. It's everywhere you look these days, right?
Yeah, it's hard to escape all the headlines.
But for this deep dive, we're focusing on how it's shaking things up in the film industry. We've got a fascinating variety article to guide us.
It really gets into the nitty-gritty.
Yeah, so let's start with the big question. Is AI actually changing what we consider a real performance?
Well, the recent controversy surrounding the Brutalist, that's definitely stirring up a lot of debate.
A film with AI-enhanced dialogue.
Right, they used it to refine. The Hungarians, spoken by Adrian Brody and Felicity Jones,
And the director Brady Corbett. He's adamant that the AI didn't replace the actors' performances.
which gets to the heart of the issue.
Exactly.
Is it still a genuine performance
Yeah.
if AI is involved?
Right, because The Brutalist is an Oscar contender. It's already won a Golden Globe, and it's up for some BAFTAs.
So the stakes are high.
High indeed. So this case really highlights the growing anxiety
Yeah.
around AI and film in general. It's not just about The Brutalist either.
Oh, definitely not. We're seeing AI used in so many ways now.
From like subtle dialogue tweets
Yeah, like cleaning up a line here and there.
to full-blown de-aging.
Exactly, like they did with Harrison Ford in the new Indiana Jones.
Okay, so let's get technical for a second. The article mentions this company, Respeecher.
They seem to be leading the charge when it comes to this AI dialogue technology.
They worked on The Brutalist.
And another possible Oscar contender, Amelia Perez.
So how does it actually work?
Her speecher uses these super sophisticated algorithms to create these incredibly realistic voice clones.
Voice clones.
Yeah, think of it like this. They feed the AI tons of an actor's voice recordings, and it learns to mimic their speech patterns, intonations, even like emotional nuances.
Wow, so they could take an actor's voice
Yeah,
and make them say anything.
pretty much. And that's where things get, well, a little bit unsettling.
I can imagine.
Like they even de-aged Mark Hamill's voice for young Luke Skywalker in those Star Wars shows.
Hold on, so they can manipulate voices across time now.
Yeah, it's getting pretty wild.
This is starting to feel like we're living in a sci-fi movie.
It definitely has that vibe.
But before we get too carried away, let's talk about another company that's making waves. Flawless. They've got this tool called Deep Editor, and the article mentions it was used in Kraven the Hunter and Venom Let There Be Carnage.
Deep Editor takes things a step further than Respeecher.
So what's the difference?
Well, Respeecher is mainly focused on voice, but Deep Editor allows filmmakers to change lines of dialogue. They can alter facial expressions, even adjust the emotional tone after filming is done.
Whoa. So they can basically rewrite a movie in post-production.
You got it.
That's both mind-blowing and a little terrifying. I mean, does it take away some of the magic of filmmaking?
It's a valid concern. It definitely raises questions about authenticity.
And what it even means to deliver a genuine performance.
For sure. And Hollywood unions like SAG-AFTR, they're understandably concerned about protecting actors' rights.
Their voices.
Yeah, their likeness.
And ultimately their jobs.
Exactly.
But it's interesting, both Respeecher and Flawless claim to be working ethically.
And they say they're even collaborating with industry guilds.
But I'm still not sure what ethical use actually means when we're talking about this kind of technology.
Right, it's a tricky question. And it's only going to get trickier as AI advances.
Okay, so let's shift gears for a moment. How does all this compare to other technologies
Yeah.
that have already impacted filmmaking?
Well, think about Natalie Portman in Black Swan.
Oh, yeah.
Remember how they digitally imposed her face on a dance double for some of the more complex ballet scenes?
Right. And wasn't there something similar with Michael Douglas behind the candelabra?
Exactly. They digitally placed his head on a professional pianist's body.
So we've already been blurring the lines
Yeah.
between real and artificial performances for years.
I mean, that's the thing. It's not a completely new concept.
So are we just overreacting to AI? Because it's new and shiny?
Yeah, maybe to some extent.
Yeah.
But what makes AI different is the level of realism it can achieve.
And the speed at which it's evolving.
Exactly.
So I guess it's like anything else. It can be used for good or for bad.
It's about finding the right balance.
And figuring out how to harness its power responsibly.
Absolutely.
Now let's talk about performance capture. The tech behind characters like Gollum
From Lord of the Rings.
and Caesar in Planet of the Apes.
Oh, right.
Andy Serkis, he's brilliant in those roles. But he always seems to get overlooked during awards season.
It's almost like the technology overshadows the performance.
Exactly.
Even James Cameron, who directed Avatar, he's argued that performance capture should be recognized as a legitimate form of acting.
I mean, Zoe Saldana gives an incredible performance as Neytiri, but because it's a CGI character, Some people dismiss it.
It's a really fascinating debate. It goes right to the core of what we consider acting.
And now AI is being thrown into the mix, which
Yeah.
could create even more realistic performances. So where does the line between human and machine begin to blur?
That's a great question.
And one we'll definitely explore further as we continue this deep dive. But before we move on,
Sure.
I want to touch on the ethical considerations, because there are a lot of them.
Yeah, there are a lot of things to think about when it comes to AI and ethics.
So let's unpack some of the key concerns surrounding AI in filmmaking.
Okay, let's dive in. Well, one of the biggest concerns is job displacement.
Yeah. Are actors going to become obsolete?
It's a legitimate fear.
I mean, there are so many jobs involved in a film production.
Yeah.
Not just actors, but voiceover artists, stunt performers, even editors and special effects artists.
Right, and as AI becomes more sophisticated, it could potentially automate a lot of those roles.
It's almost like we're standing on the edge of a technological revolution, and we have no idea what the fallout's going to be.
It's true, and that's why it's crucial to have these conversations now, while we still have a chance to shape how this technology develops.
Okay, so job displacement is a big one. But what about the actors themselves? Their rights, their control over their own performances.
That's another huge ethical issue.
If AI can manipulate an actor's voice and likeness, who owns the rights to that performance?
Exactly.
Does the actor have any say in how their image and voice are used?
It's like the whole deep fake thing, but on a much larger scale.
It feels like a slippery slope,
Yeah.
where actors' creative control could completely disappear.
And that's why SAG-AFTRA
Yeah.
and other industry guilds are pushing for strong legal protections for performers.
To ensure they have the right to consent,
Yes, and that they're fairly compensated.
even when AI is involved.
Right, because their work is still being used.
Okay, so legal stuff aside, what about the artistic integrity of a film? If AI can alter performances so easily, does it cheapen the whole thing?
It definitely raises questions about authenticity.
Yeah, like is it still a genuine performance?
It's like the difference between watching a live concert and listening to a studio recording.
Right.
The live performance might have flaws, but there's a raw energy there, an authenticity that you can't replicate.
Exactly.
So it's a balancing act between technological advancement and preserving what makes art authentic.
So how do we find that balance?
It's going to take a collaborative effort
Mm-hmm.
between filmmakers, actors, technology developers, and even the audience.
We all have a role to play.
We need to have open and honest conversations about what we value in film and how we can use AI responsibly.
Transparency seems key. Filmmakers should be upfront about how they're using AI,
And audiences need to understand the technology's capabilities and its limitations.
so we can make informed decisions.
Exactly.
It feels like we're entering this new era of filmmaking, where the lines between reality and artificiality are blurring.
It's exciting, but also a bit unsettling.
For sure.
But remember, technology itself isn't inherently good or bad. It's how we use it.
It's a tool.
Right.
Okay, we've talked about job displacement, actors' rights, artistic integrity.
We've covered a lot, but there's always more to discuss.
Okay, well, I'm particularly fascinated by how AI might impact the future of filmmaking.
What will movies look like in 10, 20, 50 years?
It's impossible to say for sure.
But we can make some educated guesses.
Let's put on our futuristic thinking caps. Do you think AI will change the way stories are told?
I think it has the potential to.
In what ways?
Well, imagine AI tools that can analyze scripts and give feedback on plot structure, character development, even emotional impact.
So AI could become like a virtual writing partner.
Yeah, helping writers to push their creativity.
And it could open up new avenues for storytelling.
What if you had interactive films where the plot changes based on your choices, or films that are personalized to each individual viewer's preferences?
It's like those choose-your-own-adventure books we read as kids.
Yeah.
But on a whole other level.
Exactly. And AI could even help create entirely new genres of film, ones we can't even conceive of yet.
It's mind-blowing. But with all these possibilities, I can't help but think about the potential downsides. What if AI starts dictating what kinds of stories get told?
That's a valid concern.
What if everything starts to look and feel the same?
It's a risk.
We have to be careful.
We need to ensure that human creativity and artistic vision remain at the heart of filmmaking.
Even as AI becomes more powerful.
It's a delicate balance.
Speaking of which, let's talk about global audiences.
Yeah.
The article mentioned that AI is already being used for dubbing and localization,
Right.
which could make films more accessible to people worldwide.
Imagine watching a film in any language without losing the nuances of the original performance.
It sounds incredible.
AI could break down language barriers and create a truly global film culture.
But is there a risk of losing something in translation? The cultural context, the humor, the emotional subtleties.
That's why it's crucial to use AI thoughtfully to preserve the filmmaker's intent.
While still making the film accessible to a wider audience.
It's a fine line.
It also raises the question of who decides how a film is translated and adapted.
It's a complex issue.
This has been quite a journey, from de-aging voices to redefining what it means to be an actor.
It's fascinating stuff.
And we've only just begun to explore the implications of AI in film.
There's so much more to unpack.
So, as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to turn things back to you, the listener. What are your thoughts on AI and the future of film? Are you excited or a little bit freaked out? I'm still processing everything we've discussed.
It's a lot to take in. I think it's okay to feel both excited and apprehensive.
Yeah, it's like a whole new world is opening up. But we need to be cautious.
We need to approach AI with a critical eye
Question its assumptions.
and make sure it aligns with our values,
It's easy to get caught up in all the hype,
especially when you see what AI can do.
but it's not a magic bullet.
And it comes with its own set of ethical challenges.
Like we talked about earlier, the potential for bias.
That's a big one.
How do we make sure AI doesn't just reinforce existing inequalities?
That's a question that goes beyond just filmmaking.
It applies to all areas where AI is being used.
It's about making sure AI development is inclusive and that the data sets are diverse and representative
We need to actively work to mitigate bias.
and promote fairness at every stage.
It's a big responsibility.
Yeah.
So who should be held accountable for ensuring that AI is used ethically in filmmaking? Is it the filmmakers,
They definitely have a part to play.
the tech companies,
Of course.
the government,
They have a role too.
or is it all of us as viewers?
I think it's a shared responsibility.
We all need to be aware and hold filmmakers accountable for their choices. So it's going to take all of us working together to navigate this new landscape. But ultimately, do you think AI will enhance or diminish filmmaking?
It has the potential to do both.
How so?
It can be a powerful tool for creating immersive and engaging experiences.
Yeah.
It can push the boundaries of storytelling and open up new creative possibilities.
That's exciting.
But it's not a replacement for human creativity and artistic vision.
That's a crucial point.
The heart of great filmmaking will
Yeah.
always be the human story.
The emotional connection between the audience and the characters.
That's what makes film so powerful.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a final thought. Think about the films that have moved you the most, the stories that have stayed with you. What makes them special? Is it the special effects, or is it something deeper?
Something that speaks to the human experience.
As AI continues to evolve, don't be afraid to challenge the status quo. Demand transparency, and advocate for the kind of films you want to see in the world, because ultimately the future of film is in our hands.
It's up to all of us.
Well, that's it for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, keep exploring.